I kept asking myself a simple, haunting question. What tragedy lies behind the silky voice of Sade Adu, now 66, living almost in silence? We remember her as the woman who floated through Smooth Operator like smoke and satin. Then she disappeared. In 1986, she won the Grammy for Best New Artist, and a major profile once called her one of the most relentlessly quiet, famous people on the planet. That contrast is my obsession: fame that thundered and a private life that whispered. I'm Sarah Reed, and this is Golden American Legends, where we pull back the curtain on icons you think you know. Have you ever wondered why some stars drop out of sight? Hit like if that mystery grabs you, because Sade's story is not gossip, it's a study in strength. She soared with a sound that critics labeled quiet storm, and then chose an even quieter life, tucked away in the English countryside. The reasons are deeper than tabloid myths. They live in her childhood, her lyrics, and the decisions that protected her sanity. Tonight, we'll spiral through those moments, layer by layer. She didn't flee, she decided, and that decision is where the heartbreak and the beauty really starts. Next up, the roots that shaped her voice. They were only actually together for 4 years, my first 4 years anyway. That's sad, remembering her parents' short marriage. She was born Helen Folasade Adu in Ibadan, Nigeria in 1959 to a Yoruba economist father and an English nurse mother. When the relationship fractured, her mother brought Sade and her brother to England around 1963. Picture it: a single white mom, 2 little brown kids, 1 suitcase, and nowhere to live. That kind of beginning plants grit. It also plants longing. Growing up in 1960s Britain meant learning to hold 2 worlds in the same small hands: Nigeria in memory, England underfoot. That tension and the tenderness of a mother doing everything to keep the lights on would later echo in Sade's songs, polite on the surface, aching underneath. She once spoke about those early years with calm honesty, and I hear that same calm in her phrasing. It's the quiet that knows how to survive. Those childhood rooms taught her empathy. They taught her to listen, to make space for feelings that didn't neatly fit. All of that would become the secret ingredient in her music. From that suitcase to the spotlight is a long road. Here's how she took the first unexpected turn. She didn't plan to be a star. Helen Adu went to Central St. Martin's to study fashion. By day, she learned cut and drape. By night, she sold clothes at Camden Market to keep the rent paid. And somewhere between the sewing machine and the stall, she started singing backup in a band called Pride. Then fate did that thing fate does. The lead singer left, she later joked, so she stepped up to the mic. It wasn't about ambition, it was about filling the space. 2 bandmates, Stuart Matthewman and Paul Denman, heard the magic and built a new group around her voice. They kept it simple: Sade, short for Folasade. In 1983, Epic Records signed them. A label executive remembered falling completely in love with the elegance she carried in like it was nothing. That's what I love about this chapter. No hype, no grand plan. A fashion student with a floating voice, a few friends who believed, and suddenly a band that sounded like a candlelit room. The clothes she designed were cool, the songs she shaped were timeless. The runway had shifted. The world was about to meet the calmest sensation of the decade. 1984 felt like a soft earthquake. Diamond Life landed and didn't shout, it shimmered. Smooth Operator, The Sweetest Taboo, these were just songs, they were moods. Adult contemporary radio spun them non-stop, and late-night R&B shows, the Quiet Storm format, wrapped her sound around millions of drivers heading home in the dark. A critic once joked Sade's music fit a plastic surgeon's waiting room, which secretly proves the point. Her elegance could live anywhere. Epic Susan Blonde said it best: she never looked like a brand, and her songs seemed to become classics immediately. By 1986, Sade had a Grammy for Best New Artist and a passport stamped by every major stage show. The band's blend of soul, jazz, a hint of Latin, and air you could almost touch felt new and inevitable at once. And yet, even at the height of the glow, I hear something else beneath the gloss: restraint, a held breath, a sadness that the sax always knew. The hits made her famous, but the undertow kept us listening. Because under the velvet, there was steel and a story. To hear it, you have to step into the lyrics and feel what she wouldn't say out loud. Somebody already broke my heart. You can hear that line and still feel the bruise. Journalist Danielle Smith once wrote that Sade sings about the remnants of joy and disaster, and that's exactly it. Joy remembered, disaster survived. Her smoothness isn't a mask, it's how she carries pain without spilling it. Take Smooth Operator. It's not a celebration of a suave lover, it's a lament about a player who leaves wreckage behind. Sade explained it as what happens when sentiment is left to chance. And listen to that sax. It doesn't flirt, it cries. Across Promise and Stronger Than Pride, she kept writing about love as a beautiful risk. Less lust, more romance, more memory. The arrangements were lush, the beats unhurried, the vocals unbroken. But the stories were about the crack in the vase, not the flowers. When I line up the lyrics with the life, I hear someone building a room for sadness, but decorating it with grace. The poetry was warning us. The heartbreak wasn't just in the songs. It was coming for the woman herself. And when it did, she didn't turn it into headlines, she turned it into choices. By the mid-90s, the fairy tale cracked. Sade married Spanish film director Carlos Pliego in 1989, but by 1995, they divorced. She later said they had a difficult time navigating the demands of global fame with a private relationship. That sentence tells you everything. The machine and the heart don't always share the same schedule. After the split, she spent time in Jamaica with musician Bob Morgan. They had a son, and Sade, in many ways, became a single mother focused on making a home. Look at the timeline. After Love Deluxe in 1992, there was no new album for 8 years. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was life happening, healing, caretaking, moving forward in quiet ways. To me, this is where Sade's legend shifts from glamorous to human. The woman who gave the world satin-smooth anthems chose family first. She refused to sacrifice her private self to feed the public one. People looked for scandal. There wasn't any. There was pain, sure, but mostly there was a decision to protect what mattered. That decision would shape her next era of music and her next retreat from the machine. 8 years passed, and then a new voice arrived, still Sade, but softened by motherhood and lit by hard-won calm. Lover's Rock came out in 2000, and you can hear the life she'd been living in every track. The melodies lean in, the rhythms breathe. The King of Sorrow video says the rest. She's in a gown, then in a headscarf, scrubbing a child's shoe, pushing a trolley, trying to be two people at once. That image is a masterstroke of Sadeness, a reminder that glamour and responsibility can share the same frame. Around this time, she settled into country life with partner Ian Watts and a blended family, choosing school runs and slow mornings over red carpets. What I admire most is the grace with which she made it look simple. It wasn't a fall from grace, it was a pivot towards sanity. Fans didn't punish her for the gap, they felt the truth in the songs. When you treat your art like a diary, people wait for the next entry, and they did, patiently, ready for whatever she wanted to share next. Here's the backstage secret. Sade never liked promotion. Epic Records executive Dan Beck once flew to London and cut a deal. She'd do 3 weeks of non-stop publicity per album. "You'll hate it, but we'll get it all done," he told her. And that's what they did. No endless junkets, no constant selfies. Her team summed up her ethos cleanly. Narcissism wasn't a precondition for art, it was the enemy. That line still hits me, because it explains everything that followed. Her withdrawal wasn't panic or scandal, it was principle. In the mid-2000s, she and Ian Watts settled into the Cotswolds countryside with their children. The industry had driven many artists to isolation. Sade didn't combust, she thrived. She let the music speak, then closed the door. You're watching Golden American Legends, where we celebrate choices like that. If deep dives like this move you, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs a little quiet strength today. Now, let's step through that door and see what her everyday life actually looked like when the camera stopped rolling. Think fields, not flashbulbs. Sade made a home near Stroud in Gloucestershire, a simple cottage, a garden, and a circle small enough to breathe in. She kept close to family and supported local arts. No clubs, no scene, just the rhythm of ordinary days. We caught glimpses, nothing more. In 2012, she quietly attended photographer Albert Watson's gallery opening in Hamburg, smiling beside the artist like any other guest. On her 58th birthday, a family post showed her relaxed and happy, cake in view, aura intact. That's the proof I trust, not staged interviews, but small moments that look like peace. She wasn't selling a brand, she was living a life. Today at 66, that life seems steady. Dogs, fields, and a face the world still recognizes even if it rarely sees it. People asked whether she was okay. The answer appears to be yes. The serenity is intentional. It's the final form of her quiet storm. And yet, even as she stayed still, the world kept moving toward her. Every so often, she'd come back, and the response felt like a dam breaking. In 2001, Sade toured behind Lover's Rock and grossed about $26 million. In 2011, she returned with Soldier of Love and doubled it, pulling in roughly $50 million. That's not a comeback, that's command. Stadiums sold out. Fans who had waited a decade finally heard that voice again, and it sounded like time had bowed to her, not the other way around. Critically, the music landed too. Soldier of Love won a Grammy, proof that she could step away and still return with songs that mattered. This is the part that fascinates me as a historian. The silence didn't weaken her reach, it concentrated it. The fewer the releases, the more attention each one earned. Patience became part of the brand, without her ever trying to build a brand. She followed the art, the audience followed her. Which raises the bigger idea we have to explore next. How does an artist stay everywhere by choosing to be almost nowhere? Mystique became the message. In 2017, streetwear powerhouse Supreme dropped a limited Sade t-shirt and it sold like lightning. Vintage dealer Patrick Matamora saw demand spike from stars, Rihanna, Mark Ronson, Drake, who even tattooed Sade's face on his arm. Vintage tees hit $300 and up. Pop culture kept winking too. On Big Little Lies, a character hears Sade and thinks it's Adele, a sly nod to how her voice is woven into our ears. And through it all, the woman herself said almost nothing. As one profile put it, her long-standing lack of interest in speaking about herself makes the world more likely to speak about her. Even basic facts feel like secret knowledge. Yes, it's pronounced Sade. The paradox is perfect. She protects her life, and the myth keeps growing. But take away the merch and the memes, and you're left with the art, steady, elegant, unbothered. That's the legacy new generations are discovering. Which brings us to the final turn of this spiral, the lesson her story leaves behind. Grace. That's the word people who worked with Sade return to again and again. Epic Records executive Dan Beck said, "There was grace to everything she did." I see it in the way she turned heartbreak into melody and fame into a boundary, not a prison. She chose not to feed the spotlight because she believed narcissism wasn't the engine of art, it was its enemy. That conviction let her protect the fragile parts of herself that wrote the songs we love. For me, the message is simple and brave. Success doesn't have one script. You can step back and still be great. You can say less and matter more. You can live in the countryside and still sell out stadiums. Sade's story isn't about hiding, it's about choosing. Peace over noise, craft over clout, family over feeds. The tragedy we sense in her voice became the beauty we hold in our playlists. That's resilience. That's wisdom. And that's why her music still feels like a hand on your shoulder. Hold that thought, because it brings us home. From first heartbreaks to long silences, Sade Adu taught us that beauty can come from pain, and that boundaries can keep the beauty alive. I'll be honest, there were seasons in my life when her songs kept me steady, like a soft light in a rough room. If this journey moved you, subscribe for more deep dives, hit like, and share this with someone who loves real stories behind the music. Thanks for watching, and for spending time in this quiet storm with me. Which Sade song speaks to your story? Drop it in the comments and tell me why it still matters to you. I'll be reading. Until next time, I'm Sarah Reed. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening for the truth inside the tune.